guess what the make of this is? It's a Stagg. My friend used to have a car called a Triumph Stagg, and we called it the Triumph Snag because it was always breaking down. It was a lovely little sports car, it looked great, but they didn't last long because they were faulty. Now this one is a little bit different because it's a left-handed one, and it has some work to be done. As you can see, there's a tuner missing, and the neck looks all fine. I've run my fingers down the frets, and I think I nearly sliced my finger off at the lower frets. Up there, they're all a bit okay, but I'm going to do the whole side. The bodywork has not had, I don't think it's been played in several years. This is bent. Those are all upside down. No, they're not really. It's left-handed. And the pickups are all bent this way for some reason. They're all right down tight there and high there, so we'll see what that is. It's all there, but I bet you the electrics might be a little bit rusty after this time and age. On the back, you'll see that, oh gosh, it's got the Triumph Snag, and it says University of Music below that. University of Music. It needs buffed and polished. The neck looks pretty. Just feels a little bit rough in the middle there. And the tuners are Stagg. Now this one looks like it might be causing problems because it's grinding a bit, and I think the white thing is broken in it. As you can see, these ones are all looking fine. If that's bad, I'll replace a tuner there and replace a tuner there and move that one up to there. But we'll see as we go along. These guitars, they mention, when you go to the website, they mention Japan at the very start, and then they mentioned Leonardo Baldacci, a company that took over the manufacture of them, and then they mention that in the internet they say they made in Indonesia, and they get a really bad reputation in the internet. Some say there's third hand, second hand, and rubbish. But I don't like to say that about a guitar until I really looked at it. Now, the one thing it does sort of concern me is that just by looking at it, the neck height looks to be, the neck might need a shim just by looking at it. But what we're going to do is put on the big camera up there, and we're going to have a look at it and check the neck straightness first to see if we've got a truss rod. Georgie girl has decided to join us on the bench. Haven't you, my darling girl? Haven't you? Haven't you? What are you looking at up there? What do you have to do? Right, this guitar was given to me some time ago, and I can't remember who gave it to me, but they gave it to me to do as I want with it. And I now have a young person who wants a left-handed guitar, so I'm going to give them this. And they sell for 180 quid, these things, left-handeds. I got a feeling it's worth about 50, 60, maybe up to 80, and I'm going to give this to him. As you can see, there's a little bit of damage there that needs to be rebuilt or redone. Maybe the best thing to do is to take that slope off altogether and just have an ordinary nut there. But we'll look at it. But the first thing we're going to look at is the neck and the electrics to see what kind of noise, if any, we get from this. So these are the important things. If the truss rod's gone, then it's not much use to anybody. Well, that neck's perfectly straight. Neck's perfectly straight. It's got a slight underbow in the middle. I think I'm going to work the truss rod to make sure that if it's got a slight underbow when there's no string tension on that, none of the strings are tightened, and the strings are black. But if there's no tension on it and it's got an underbow, you just want to make sure that you can take the underbow out of it. Let me just tighten this up. It's very, very loose, the truss rod. Notice how well I just picked the right Allen key first time. Aren't I great? Georgie girl, don't you think I'm great? You're going to become a luthier yourself? Are you going to do luthier work? Right, the truss rod's working. That's the truss rod dead straight. So I'm happy with that. What I'm happy with is it moved it and it's dead straight. If it's dead straight with the movement of the truss rod, that means the truss rod's doing its work sitting on it. So let's make some noise and hope it doesn't chase Georgie girl away. So I expect a lot of crackling. I'm not getting a lot of crackling. I'm going to have to use my metal. Right, okay, so the electrics are working. Says Stagg on the pickups, says Stagg on the tuning, and I think they're proud that they make Stagg. So far, so good. One other thing I'll do is I'll run the straight edge right down to find out where the neck's pointing to. The neck's pointing roughly where it should be on a... If anything, it might be slightly low, but it can be adjusted. That's the best thing about it. So I think the next thing to do is switch off this amp and let's get stuck into getting this thing repaired. I think that's going to be an easy job. Replacing those, I have lots of spares of those. There's a little bit of a mark there, but that's a mark caused by me because one of the guitar hangers I have, the rubber comes off it and that just peels off at the side. So we're going to speed it up. They have tied knots in the strings. Ah! Hate it when they tie knots in the bloody thing. Hate it! It's a waste of bloody space and time. Does nothing for the guitar. Ah! There you are, I'm grumping already. Back to normal. Whoa, 5 springs. They're certain of their job there. I'm sure you want a nosy. I'll bring you down closer. I don't think there's much to see here. I think you'll see a very neat wiring job. Yeah. What's this? What's this? Yeah, that's all right. But somebody's cut the wires for some reason and stuck them back together with sellotape. Now I ain't having that. I'm going to put on proper covers for them. ROHS. Anybody any ideas? Save me having to look it up. Right down below. Why has somebody cut the wires? Well, that makes it, that gives me a job to do. So I'm going to do that. That's the first job I'm going to do, is get this wiring. That feels very loose. It feels like it's hardly wired at all. And so I'm just going to tidy up this wiring. We know the wiring is working. That's the good thing. So I'm going to get my soldering iron out and we'll do some soldering and wiring and splicing and chopping and pasting. Sellotape. Anyway, okay, later. Okay, the board's not back on yet. And I can't find my little plastic thing that I love. But so I'm going to use the metal one. So where's the little plastic one? I have this place so well organized. But you know what could be the problem? A certain little pussycat likes to play with these things and take them away from me. So that's not going to work. So let me just try this underneath the pot, and then you're leveraging it, and that means you're not scratching the outside. So you bend it back a bit, pull the pot, get some leverage. That's it. And turn the pot. Right, and now some leverage. Now this will work. Right, you. Oh, that sounds like a Queen song. We will rock you. Now what's going to happen now is I'm going to get busy with my little squirter and squirt all inside there and turn the knobs, and I'm going to try to straighten this without breaking it. Let's just see if we can straighten it. Look at that, first time, beautiful. So out comes the WD-40, and before you use double D40 on the guitar, make sure you check the paintwork, because this can take off the paintwork on some guitars. So don't let that happen. Test it thoroughly first, okay? Right, so I'm putting in down there, so it'll go down through the knob. I'm putting some in there. I haven't tested on this, by the way, because I know that this kind of paint doesn't react with the WD-40. So all I'm going to do now is use a little screwdriver and save my little fingers and just do this. And you know the other thing about doing it this way, it's a great cleaning agent if your guitar can take that kind of paint. Your guitar's got the right type of paint that won't react with it. Because WD-40 is very good at cleaning guitars. It's very good at cleaning anything, actually, you know. But do test the surface of the thing first. And that does feel a little bit loose, doesn't it? You know what else I see? There's plastic underneath that. So whoever's put it on hasn't taken the plastic underneath. That's one of my pet hates. But then again, they do it in a factory and they're penny workers and stuff like that there. So, right, okay. And that there. Okay, and what I do with this part that I've already sprayed is I just use the brush to get in there. Turn them upside down. And then I'll use the Allen key to make sure they turn back and forth and they're clean. Okay, I'm going to pause and I'm going to clean a bit more, and then I'll come back to you when we're listening to the electrics and putting the, well, I'm going to do the neck then first. Okay, that's her a bit cleaner. Not what I'd call the final clean, but a lot neater and cleaner and brighter looking all around. And the wiring's good and this is nice and clean. Now we're going to look at the neck. But I think you won't notice it, but I think I'm going to sit down because I'm tired now, and it's 10:30 at night on a Saturday night, and I'm going to sit down, have a packet of crisps and a can of Coke and sit and watch something on TV. So see you later, alligator. Need to do those frets that way, need to check the leveling. But you won't, and get the tying knots in the strings has left these things, I gotta get them off. Don't tie knots in your strings. Have I told you how much I hate people that tie knots in their strings? It's the silliest thing to do. There's no reason for it, and it leaves the mess behind for... Actually, if you own the guitar, that means you've got to be the one to undo this mess. God. Don't tie knots in your strings. It does no good. If you're scared of your strings coming off, put some more wraps around the thing. Or buy a set of locking tuners, for goodness sake. This is silly. Am I an old grump? Yes, I am. I hate this kind of thing. I'm the one that gets stabbed. There is a fairly arrogant luthier and he'll tell people, they come to this place and they say, here's my guitar. You say, take it back with you. I don't want it. It's not in the case. Take it back with you. I don't want it. It doesn't have this. Blah, blah, blah. No, I'm never going to be like that. But sometimes you feel like, what the hell is it? This is actually really badly tied in knots. And the problem is it's deliberately tied in knots too. Ah! Just, right, okay. Damn it. Flew off. Well, I don't care you flew off, as long as you don't land somewhere where it's going to damage the guitar. Right, now I'm going to move to the neck and I'm going to speed through this. But what I'm going to do with this damaged nut, as you can see, it's been chipped. I'm going to file that flat. I'm going to chip it off. Ah, do it now. Do it now. Why wait for spring? If you ever hear me saying that, it's a reference to a commercial that I used to hear when I was a young child. Oh.
From Esto, the chair, LOL.
Right, okay. When I was a young child, I used to hear this commercial for a what do you call it? I used to hear this commercial for a garden company who used to sell garden equipment and tools and paintbrushes and stuff like that there, and they'd advertise in the middle of winter and say, why wait for spring, do it now. Well, they're quite right, so I'm going to do this now, if I can find the bloody tool I need. Right, okay. Roughly I'm going to hew off this, even though I do like it, but it's going to be a bit of a mess to try to get sloped again, so I'll just take that off. So when I put the nut on, I'll put some super glue in there with the shavings, the dust there, and you won't even notice it, love. You won't even notice it. Now I'm going to go back to the work of doing the neck, getting the neck right. So I'll just take those shavings and keep them. Right. Yep, 3,000. Why don't I gotta say this every time, why don't I tape off every fret? Well, I would do that if this was a high gloss neck, or if it was an expensive neck with a very odd finish on it. But when you're using 3000 grit sandpaper, that 3000 grit's what you use before you... I could polish this guitar and then I could sand the guitar, and then the markings with that would polish off with a little bit of liquid polish. It's so fine. And what I'm doing here is I'm cleaning this up. On this one I'm going to use this, because that's going to clean. It's going to penetrate the wood, it's going to protect the wood, and it will remove anything. There's no marks there that I see at all of any sanding left over, because the sandpaper's so fine. So the number of times I'm going to be polishing this will take away any sandpaper marks, as long as you use 300, maybe 2,500, or even 2,000. Now I'm giving this guitar away to a young fella. who teaches guitar, and he's a left-handed guitar. You see the dirt's not coming off as much now. Got past all that. So, and I like Stagg guitars. I do. They get a terrible reputation on the internet. To me, that's the same thing I have as guitar snobbery. Oh, it's a snag, it's a dag, it's a stag, it's a bad guitar. Well, it's not. Guitar's only bad if it's been so badly made you can't use the wood on the guitar or the neck on the wood. Unless it's an acoustic. Acoustic does make a difference. The quality of the wood, the quality of the sound hole and everything like that. The electric guitar, you put 500, but people would say, why would I put £500 pickups in a guitar like this? Well, why not if you've got a guitar that you like playing? If it fits you, it works with you. Gary Moore, I watched him play last night. Gary Moore's an old friend of mine from way back in school days. He used to come round to my house, but I watched Gary Moore play. And his Gibson, he plays a Gibson Lost. Well, he often plays, probably it's his own Gibson Les Paul. It's not what you would call the most expensive guitar in the world, the one he plays. But it's the way he plays it, the way he sets it up, the way he tunes it, the way he bends the strings, everything's set up for him. And he doesn't have a £20,000 guitar, although his guitar now would probably be worth, now that he's dead, probably worth hundreds of thousands. But a brilliant guitarist. And even though he was my friend, I still think he is the top blues guitarist for rock blues. And that album he did, Still Got the Blues for You, it is an amazing album written by somebody with real passion. And every time he played, he put real passion into his playing. He loved his guitar and he loved playing it to the maximum. What a player he was. Now look at that, doesn't that look at that wood, the grain in the wood, and look how nice that is. Isn't that beautiful? Now again, I tell you again, I'm talking a lot, but you put lots on this, let it soak in, and then you come back 5 minutes later or 10 minutes later at the most, and you polish it all off, because if you don't polish it off, it'll go sticky on ye. So edges are fine. Edges are fine. So I'm going to pause now, and I'm going to probably get prepared to do that nut. And once I've done the nut, then I'll fix that little dinge. Oh, you can't see outside the camera. Once I've done the nut, I'll fix that little dinge and fill it in. Okay. Right, back in 5 minutes. 5 minutes later, and you can see here it's completely soaked in, and soaked in the whole way, and you saw I put quite a bit on, so it was really dry. So what I'm going to do now is put even more on before I polish it off, because this is a very dry wood. I'll just show you this that I was quite happy about. I was cleaning away at the other side using cotton buds and water and everything, and none of it worked, so I thought, right, okay, I'll try some acetone and watch what happens. Look, just takes it off right away perfectly. Ain't that good? Acetone. I always keep a bottle of acetone handy. Okay, if you're going to do that, make sure you know that your lacquer and your paint tested somewhere. Generally speaking, most guitars are fine with it, but look at that. Just took it right off, and took right off the other side. And it smells like you could sniff it, love. It smells like you could be a dog sniffer. Dog sniffer? Dog sniffer? Dog sniffer? Glue sniffer. Anybody who sniffs dogs needs to see a psychiatrist. Mind, a lot of people need to see a psychiatrist these days. Ready to polish this off. Now, I wasn't going to put anything but a cheap plastic nut on that, but I found a bone nut that's broken. It's broken at the bottom. It's got a crack at the bottom. You see it? but that doesn't matter because that's going to have to be brought down a lot, and it fits almost perfectly. So what I'll do is I'll bring that down. I have to do it by hand, so there's no point in you watching that. And then I'll put it on, and then I'll sand it all down and shape it, and you'll see it won't look so bad when it's done. It's a bit too wide at the moment, but I will fix that all up. So it'll get a bone knot now. Okay, I'll come back to you when it's ready to set on it. Now, I've shown this before, but there's a lot of different subscribers now since I've shown it last time, so they just might be interested. But these are very handy if you work with guitars. What it does is if you've got a bridge to bring down or a nut to bring down, you can put it into the slots like that, and then the wheels sitting on a bit of sandpaper, you run it in the sandpaper until it's brought down to the right level. I'll just show you, and these can be adjusted because the one I'm doing now is a more narrow nut, so that you can bring these out and put them in the screws. Oh, it's a big long screw. Come on, come on, come on. That's it. So I'll show you more generally what I'm saying rather than talking about it. Now what I've done is I've marked in a pencil where I want this to go. So I'll put that in there like that. Oh, well, I'll try to put it in there like that. To the depth you'd like to. Now that's the depth I want to remove. Let me just make it straight. Right, that's the depth I want to remove. So I tighten these springs, these things at the side, which clamp that into position. And that holds it in position, right? And these nuts, I should have done this first. These nuts will make sure it doesn't push up when you're pressing down on it. I'll show you in a second. If I just touch that and touch that. When I put that on a bit of sandpaper, like that, all that's touching the sandpaper at the moment is the bit I want to take off. So I'll run up and down with the sandpaper. Let me get a bit rougher sandpaper. I'll just pull something out of the drawer quickly to show you. So when I run up and down, I've got other sandpaper, but I'll run up and down with that like a little toy cart. And what it's doing is taking away it, but it's holding it tight so you don't have to burn your fingers. And I'll run that up and down on a proper piece of sandpaper until the wheels touch. And when the wheels touch, you know you've got the right distance down. So let me get another bit of sandpaper and do this right. Just a final note on that. You can move those screws because if you have a small nut, you can move them so that you can get a balance on the small nut. Or if you have a larger nut that you want to bring down, you can move them to the outside so that then you have a radius that you can set for the middle. If you see what I mean, that's got a radius. So if you move those nuts to the outside, you'll get a flat bottom if you use a radius on each side. Hopefully that explains that. I hope so. Don't know if I was clear or not, but I'm telling you anyway. Well, this is a lucky one so far. I'm still struggling because I found a little white washer that will do it, and I put it on. Right, back to the workbench, put all these in there, and I'll go and look in my depths of my store. Well, we've got that glued in, not too much glue, looks pretty good. Now I've got to fix that. Also bluff that up. I'll let you see that. That is a tuner that doesn't match anything to do with the rest, and it doesn't have a screw-in bolt. So what I've done is I've used a washer and a bolt, and I've just a tiniest bit of super glue to keep it in position, but it'll work. And you can see the back. It doesn't have anything in common with the others except for it works. Now, whenever the chappie decides to take this guitar, he can buy himself a new set of tuners. We can get them quite cheaply. But I don't have any. I've got 5 good ones here, as you can see, 5 good ones and 1 temporary thing, but it works. Okay, so right, I'm going to do this now. This bit here that you can see that's damaged. Let me just see if I can get you in the right place. So the way I plan to do this, pretty mucky bit way to do it, but if you remember, I kept that dust from when I sanded the head. Now I don't want the bits to come out. I just want the dust. And this is always difficult to do. Right. Now it's going to take a little bit of puttying and playing and pissing about. And I don't expect to get it patted down. Now what I'm going to do is put a drop of super glue on that. It'll go out of its way to be awkward, but then I'll sand it afterwards. I can't open the bottle of super glue. How old am I getting? Oh, for goodness sake. Goodness sake. Right, so I'm just going to put a drop of super glue on that. As gently as I can. Doesn't matter if it runs, most of it's going to be taken off. And that'll soak into the wood. And I'll soak up this other stuff that's running. And that'll go like a brick. A little bit there at the edge I don't think I got, which I'm going to have to get. Looks messy at the moment, but it'll come out alright on the night, as they say. But come on, just that little bit. That's it there. So when I finished, I'm going to sand that down because it will need to be sanded. And then I'll be sanding the nut anyway, so that'll go hard. Right, so what I can do now is get rid of this, because it's messy and I'm ready to spill it. And you can see that the plan, the cunning plan, hopefully it'll get close to the colour by the time it's sanded drying. So leave that be. And the next thing to do after this is to sand that down, but it's going to take about a half an hour to sand it down. Then I'll put the strings on. Okay, I'll come back later when I'm doing the strings and I'll clean out these little grooves, but that looks good enough for me. It's good enough for me. It's darker, but it's okay. Now I don't want you looking at that. Don't look at that at all. Pretend that that's still the same and done exactly the way. And don't pretend that I made it too small and I broke it when I took it off. Don't pay any attention to that. And also don't pay any attention to the fact that it's left-handed, so it should be not that way around, it should be that way around. Ignore all that. So what I've found now is a nut that came off of a fairly antique guitar, maybe not antique, but a fairly unique guitar that's got black and white, and it fits perfectly. And what I'm going to do it on there to make up for the fact that it's also left-handed. So I'm going to glue that on there, and then I'm going to shape it in position. There you are. It's 12 o'clock at night, but I've knocked that down as far as I'm going to knock it down tonight. It needs polished, and it needs sanded, but that's as much as I'm doing tonight. So it's ready now to put the string gauges in. Okay. Well, you didn't miss all that much. I stuck the strings on just at the height of the pickups. You can see the nut, and it was actually so well polishing my chest. It was actually so well leveled that it only just needed the merest amount of work with my little special fret saws, my special little nut saws, and we have a sound and it's all up to tune now, but I have to clean it yet and put the knobs on. Sounds pretty nice to me. Now I'm going to clean it, and then we'll do a little tune, put these knobs on, and then do a little tune. I have to put these knobs on upside down, don't I? Because they're that way. So the 10 should be at the top. Yeah, 10 should be at the top, right? And the levels are the same with the 10 at the top. Let's just see where that is, right? Okay. Right, and the 10 at the top. So it's looking a lot better than when it came in. Sounding a lot better than when it came in. Right, I'm going to clean it now, and then I'll give you a little tune. Well, this is going to be a very short demo because I'm not a left-handed player. Hello, hello, hello there. Right, there's the guitar. It's nicely cleaned up. And I think I like that nut. I'm not quite sure I would use it again, but I think that came off an old Hofner acoustic, believe it or not, but it looks decent. This guitar has got a lot of sort of, Georgie girl. You know, I'm trying to demo a guitar, Georgie girl. It's got a lot of relicking, natural relicking, but it's a lovely little guitar to play. And I was actually, look at that. You see, I don't have that. She's gone again. I don't have the spare Stagg tuner, but I've used something that's working just as well. Now the person that I'm giving this to is going to donate some money to a CC. Very hard to get around your arm around this bit here. You'll be playing like this. What is it? Left-handed, southpaw, cack-handed. What other names do you have for a person that's left-handed? Let me just see. Probably be racist now by saying that. Right, now I have to play an E backwards. Forgive me here. Is that an E backwards? Let me just see. That's E. Sounds great though, doesn't it? That's on that pickup, all pickups, and nice rock and roll sound. Very nice, different change of tone there if you really want to go. I can't play any other chords, sorry. But I can play an A. And this E is about it. Yeah, but that's about all I can play, except for can't even play that. But it's playing well and everything's working well. And what I was saying, this is going to a fellow who teaches guitar, and he needs a left-handed guitar for his. Am I playing that completely wrong? How do you play this? It's there and there, isn't it? Yes. I can't play the B7th. How do you play a B7th like this? So it'll be all there and there with. Would it? Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, that's it. Oh, if I can sing a song in one chord, if I could sing at all, I don't know why. anyway, it's playing well. It's going to a good home now. He teaches people guitar, and he needs a left-handed guitar to keep in this place so that he can teach people guitar who are left cack-handed. All right, it's all working well. I'll say goodbye to it.